Hey, man.
Yeah,
That
you
was like
man.
the third time I did
I was gonna send you the invoice.
it. I'm sorry about the delay, but my daughter was finishing up her homework, and I was
Don't
pacing
worry,
in the background while her teacher was watching. I'm like, wrap this up.
don't worry about it, bro. It's Greek time, right?
Listen, almost. It is around lunchtime, so it gets a little funky.
There you go. Well, thank you for your time. Really
What's going
appreciate
on?
it. How are you? How's the family? Everybody's good?
We're good, man. We're making the best of it. It does cooperate a lot better. Things get a little easier when weather gets a little bit better and the kids can just hang out at least in the backyard or in the front of the house or whatever. That's my biggest thing, is just trying to keep them, they're doing their
Busy.
homework an hour a day and stuff like that, but you don't want them locked down on iPads and television. But there's so much you can do, right? They're here all
Exactly.
day. But my wife and I, it's very easy. We painted the upstairs. We painted my daughter's room. The garage has never looked any better. House is spotless. You name it. Stuff around the house has never been done this fast. Usually I'm finished this around like the month of July or August. But here we are in the end of April and the house is ready to go.
There you go. So, for the people that don't know, Simon Tsalikis, talk to us. Who are you and what do you do? I gave a little background, whatever the case is, but for the people that don't know you, who are you?
Well, I'm a full-time real estate broker at Royal LePage Classic. Been doing that for just a little over a decade now. I really enjoy doing that, but also enjoy my part-time gig. About 15 years ago, I started with TSN 690, which at the time was Team 990. And I've been a fill-in host with them for about 15 years now. So very generic. Somebody calls in sick, somebody's on vacation, somebody's unavailable. I go in and I get to talk about sports radio. It's a good thing. I get to check out from reality and talk about sports. It's a blessing.
There you go. On March 15, I was supposed to have my son's baptism,
Oh no.
and 3 days before that, I canceled it. This came real, like shit got real. I think 2-3 days after, when the NBA canceled everything. I'm like, okay, it's really happening now.
Yeah.
Right?
So the baptism was.
It was supposed to be March 15th. Supposed to.
So
We
I
canceled
remember
it.
I play soccer on Wednesday nights. Play at 9 o'clock. Okay. A bunch of guys, 20 guys, about never has been, never was been. That's what we are. So I got there late because my daughter's practice usually ends around 8:30. I get to drop her off at home, and then I rush over from Laval to Ville Saint Laurent, and I'm usually there just before 9 o'clock. Practice ran late. I got there like around 9:10, 9:15. Was annoyed. Didn't feel like playing, but I just felt like hanging out with the boys and then going for our traditional, some beer and chicken wings and watch some sports in the bar area before we go home.
Yeah.
So, but I got caught up on Twitter that day, and I was sitting there watching, and I'm like, guys, Rudy Gobert just tested positive an hour ago, and an hour later, the commissioners come out and canceled or postponed at least the NBA season. And that's when a bunch of jocks and a bunch of guys, not that we weren't taking it lightly, my wife and I, we have 2 kids, and that's our most important thing, is their health and safety. But that's when it hit home. That's when it resonated, that it took an NBA player, a high-profile player, perhaps the highest-profile league in the world, to shut down what they were doing before people took notice. That was a Wednesday night. And we're talking about maybe, I don't know, the next day, the day after, the world completely changed. My daughters went to school on Thursday. They didn't go back to school on Friday. Then they shut down for 2 weeks. And after that, we pushed it to May. And now it looks like they can maybe go back on May 11th or May 19th. May 11th or May 19th or whatever, depending on where you live in the city. But it was that Wednesday. The world changed as we know it, at least the North American world, because it hit home here fast on that Wednesday night. Overnight, NHL followed the next day. I think the Canadians were supposed to be playing the Sabres, whether it was a Thursday or Friday, and that game was canceled. And when we get those games back, I think we will. I just don't know when exactly.
So, yeah, that's another question. How is, let's say, the NHL, for example, the playoffs are about to start-ish, right?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
So the last thing that they came out with is that every division, the 4 divisions, will have a city, and all teams will play in that city. So let's say the Canadians still had, I don't remember their schedule, but let's say they had Winnipeg coming to play in Montreal. I think they're talking about Buffalo for the Atlantic Division. So Winnipeg would have to travel to Buffalo and play the Canadians. And in the area, Tampa Bay, Boston, Detroit, all the Ottawa, Toronto,
all
they
Buffalo
would all be in that area. Winnipeg would play their game, pack their stuff, and head
it's
back home.
it's like a camp, let's say.
Almost exactly like a camp. So they're going to pick 4 spots like that. That's what they're saying. And I do.
But it's
believe
top 12, right? Top 12. Is that it?
Well, no, they want to finish the regular season, right?
Okay.
So, and then they want to finish the regular season so they don't have any liability issues, right? There's going to be a lot of teams that I'll say, hey, listen, I was 1 point out of a playoff spot. You can't shut down the league with 7 or 8 games to go. That's an incredible amount of revenue, and especially for teams that are not hockey hotbeds like the Florida Panthers, who are in desperate need of a playoff push, to just create a buzz in the market. I really do believe that they want to finish the NHL season, or at least get to 80 games, and then at that point start their playoffs. 8 teams per conference, 16 teams in the playoffs. Maybe we'll see a best of 5 instead of a best of 7. We'll see a couple of games, maybe some series being played back-to-back nights, which we haven't seen in a while. But they have to. They need the revenues. They need the television revenue. The NHL can't survive with missing out on a year's worth of playoff revenue.
Oh, you think they can't survive?
Not the hockey that we know. Not at that salary cap. Players will have to take a haircut at least. You're looking at players 7, 8, maybe 9, 10%. Absolutely. I think that they'll have to come back and slash salaries. So I think it's really important for them to finish the season, or not for me, but especially for them, to finish the season, get those television revenues from a playoff push. And then the great question is not even this year. This year, you can almost figure it out. You're playing in front of empty arenas, but how long can you do that? You come back next year in October, November, and try to finish off an NHL season in 82 venues that don't have anybody in those venues. I guess you can, but there's going to be revenues that are missed. That's going to come at whose expense? The owner's expense, and then the owners are going to turn around and put it on the players, or at least some of it on the players.
Yeah, I think the day that NBA canceled, I was watching, I think it was a basketball game. I don't know. I think it was Mavericks or somebody. Anyways, Mark Cuban said, it feels like we're in a movie,
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
And maybe a little bit of shame on us, when we saw the news coming out of China and then making its way towards here, and especially what happened in some parts of Europe, especially Italy and Spain, we didn't take it for real. It just, look, it's a pandemic. It's not like we have one every flu season. This is a pandemic. Exactly. It's a lot different. I don't think there's an easy script for anybody, whether it be the leader of a country, of a province, of a league. There's nowhere to get resources from this. You don't know how to react to this. I think they did the best they could, but it's special times, that's for sure.
So since we're from Montreal, the magic question is: do you think that the Habs have a chance this year?
No. No, I don't. The math is too skewed against them, right? There's not enough games to be played, and there's just not enough time. So I'll go with what the math says. They're not a playoff team this year.
So we have a couple of questions for you over here. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for Simon Tsalikis, anything that has to do with sports talk, real estate, whatever you want. So we have over here. Yes, Dimitri wrote here, maybe Simon is 12 p.m. Greek time, LOL.
I would have done it at 12 p.m. I got plenty of time on my hand. We could have done this anytime you want.
Of course. Okay, here we go. It's a Parkex thing. Let me see here. Maybe radio is better. That's a good one.
I do have a face for radio, yes. I've been told that.
There was a couple of questions. I lost them. But anyways, when do you think? Oh, there we go. Yeah, Nick. Why do you love sports this much, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know if you notice. This is not scripted, right? It's just a real conversation. So why sports? Tell us your story about CJ80, TSN, so on and so on. How did that work?
I had to get started on the radio. Well, the love for sports, I don't know. I can't trace that back. It just goes back way too far. I think it also has a lot to do with not just my upbringing, 2 older brothers that played sports as well. But I lived in that perfect. I look back, I lived in a perfect neighborhood. Richard next door and Michael down and Taki and George, and we all pitched in, or our dads bought us a hockey net. I grew up, you know, a 2-minute walk from Montcalm Park that has a baseball field, a soccer field, a basketball court, and I was there all day. They used to put a hockey rink in the winter. And the best thing about my mom, if you turned on the light on our back balcony, because our duplex was on Notre Dame, you can see it from Montcalm Park. So when the light went on, that means it was time for Simon to come home. But I would get there like at, I don't know, 10 in the morning, and I'd get home like around 8 o'clock at night, maybe a stop for lunch or something. But that's where it started. And because of that park, and it's a very special park to me, you know, I brought.
Did you say Montcalm Park?
Montcalm Park.
That's where I'm from. Coupal, my parents live.
There you go. Not too far.
Yeah. Cool.
So, you know, because it had a soccer field, it had a basketball court, it had a baseball field. You can use the basketball court or the parking and bring your nets and play hockey. We brought everything, and we played everything, and that's why I've always loved to compete, and I've always loved to play sports. You know, it's one of the discussions I have with my wife about working out at the gym. I sign up, I go, and it's not for me. As long as the body can still show up to somewhere and play some type of sports, I'll always gravitate to that. It's, you know, I see a lot of my younger cousins and friends with whether it be video games or whatever. I could tell you I've played maybe 2 hours of video games in my life. I've hung out at arcades. That I can do.
But you're never into it.
I've never owned a Nintendo, a Sega Genesis, an Xbox.
Not even the one with the ducks?
Not even Quack. Was it Quack or was it Quack? I don't know what it was called.
I remember.
But yeah, no, not even that. Never gravitated to those things, and I've always liked to play sports. And look, sports is also a great distraction, you know, and you got, you know it, you got a mortgage, you got 2 kids, and you got to provide, and you work. And I don't know, you know, when I check, you know, and the news have become more miserable, not just because of the COVID, but, you know, the last, I guess not around the corner last year or whatever, but, you know, you watch the news, it's not enough happy stories, and you tune on sports and it's competition, and you get to check out for a little bit, and something that I appreciate.
Bravo. So a couple of questions here. Costa, how did you get on Off the Record on TSN back in the day? What's your favorite OTR memory?
Meeting Pinball Clemons was pretty cool. Look, he's a great Canadian football player, but when you watch him on TV, he's so outgoing and he's so charming, and you're like, this seems like it's a little scripted, you know, a little scripted. And then you meet him, and he's the coolest guy. He's the nicest human being, outgoing, polite, remembered your name, said goodbye. I thought that was always pretty cool, because at the time he was a general manager of the Argonauts, and he was a great, you know, one of the all-time greats in the CFL. So you think maybe look like a pro athlete. He's done his taping, and off he goes. He was pretty cool. At the time, I'm drawing a blank on the coach of the Raptors. His last name was Mitchell. I forget what his first name was.
Paul Mitchell.
I don't think it was Paul Mitchell. I can't remember. He played for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He coached the Raptors, and he's still part of the TSN broadcast when they do Raptors basketball and college basketball. Mm-hmm. He was on. He was really cool. Got to talk to him. Jay Onright was the host a couple of times when Michael Landsberg wasn't there, so I got to talk to him. He's a really cool guy. But what happened was I had a friend that worked with WWE. Okay. And WWE had a head office in Toronto. And I was just talking to him, and I'm like, oh, how do you get all those wrestlers on TSN? Because Michael Landsberg used to have a lot of wrestlers on, right? So he goes, well, we just ask. I'm like, what do you mean you just ask? He goes, yeah. He goes, you want me to put you in contact with the guy? I'm like, sure. So he put me in contact with the gentleman. I forget his name. And we sat on the phone for about 5-6 minutes. And 1 minute or 2 minutes into the conversation, I realized this is a test. This is an audition. Mm-hmm. And they were cool. And they said, if you ever want to come up to Toronto and be part of the show, by all means, please do. Got a brother who lives with his family out in Oakville. So I used a couple of times I would go visit them or go catch a Blue Jays game or spend the weekend with my wife. And I used the opportunity to go on Off the Record. And it was good. I enjoyed it. That's the format that I absolutely love. Like when I'm on the radio and I'm talking into the microphone, that's great. What I enjoy to do is if me, you, and two other guys or gals tagged on here and we started to talk about the Habs or the Lakers or basketball, that's the forum that I love. I love the shows like Pardon the Interruption. I like banter. I want to go back and forth. I don't think people want to listen to my voice for an hour or 2 hours and just my thoughts. I like to do the back and forth. Ideal, Me, you, 2 others, a couple of frappes, and off we go. That's the perfect.
And a little tavli too.
Little tavli, sure. Why not? Why not?
There you go. So Big Daddy Fitness. Hey Simon, besides
who I started following, by the way, on Instagram, is outstanding.
Yeah, he's solid. Yeah. I lost over 30 pounds actually because of his
good
template, right? Suggestion. Hey,
yes.
Simon, besides Stanley Cups and gold medal, who do you think is better, McDavid or Crosby?
I think when it's all said and done, I think, look, it's hard to win Stanley Cups. Sidney's won 3. But I think Connor McDavid is very, very, very special. I think Sidney Crosby is kind of up there with Mario Lemieux, but Connor McDavid does things with a puck at certain speeds that we've never seen. And I sit in for Mitch Melnick sometimes on the drive show, and our guests include Gord Miller, Pierre Maguire, and Aaron Ward, who played in the NHL, and Ray Ferraro, who played well over 10 years in the NHL. And I asked these guys, because these guys are still broadcasting, and they played at the highest level. They played with Wayne. They played with Mario. And I see it on my television. And when these guys tell you that they've never seen anybody skate and move with the puck the way Connor McDavid has, they haven't. We just simply haven't. That's not taking anything away from Sid. I think Sid's going to go down as an all-time great, but I think Connor McDavid has a chance to be very special. Maybe the championships won't be there, but we got to remember one thing about a championship. They award that to the best team in the league. Yeah. It's not an individual accomplishment, and I think that Connor McDavid is very special.
Mm-hmm. A little off, actually, it's in the same topic, but
I'm wearing a hat because I haven't had a haircut in a month. That's why. Also.
Don't worry about me.
I love it. I'm days away from there. I'm gonna snap with the clipper and off it goes.
There you go. Did you watch the on Netflix Michael Jordan, The Last Beautiful Man?
Yeah, The Last Dance.
Very good.
Special. That's special athlete, special team. Probably won't see that in our lives again.
No.
You see how good the Golden State Warriors were, but at some point the salary cap, guys want to leave, guys want to go get paid like Kevin Durant did. And you just don't see a guy like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman stick around, especially when they're underpaid. And look, they won a championship 6 out of 8 years. They might have won it 8 out of 8. Akeem Olajuwon and the Houston Rockets were a great basketball team, and maybe they beat Jordan and the Bulls. But the thing about what makes this, the Last Dance special is that if they were to do one about LeBron James in 15, 20 years from now, with all of LeBron's posts or any athlete for that matter, with all of their posts on Twitter and their interviews, whether it be on TSN or ESPN or when they sit down with Jimmy Fallon or anybody, there's just so much information about these guys. There's so many 24-hour sports networks that cover everything they do when they leave their home and when they arrive at the gym. I think if they were to do it in 25 years from now, I think we'd find out things about LeBron that we didn't know, but not about what we're finding out about Michael Jordan and the Bulls and the inner workings of a basketball team. Because back then there was ESPN, there was TSN, but we weren't digging. We weren't on top of things. We weren't looking for information the way it is presented the way it is presented to you right now. There are no secrets. We know everything about LeBron. We know everything about Sidney Crosby. Just, with the Jordan, there was a little bit of that mystique that we weren't.
Also, Kobe Bryant, we know about.
Kobe will be interesting. And I read, and I haven't really backed it up with a second source, but supposedly Kobe Bryant did have a camera crew follow him for his last season with the Lakers. So that's something that we might see going forward. But Kobe, look, I'm a Laker fan. I'm a diehard. I love Kobe. I love the 5 titles he brought to LA. But with Jordan, it's different. Kobe was great, and they knew him from coast to coast. But Michael Jordan came in, and he developed a term that when I watch your videos, and we see what people do, whether it's real estate brokers, mortgage brokers, construction, anything, we use the word brand. The guy took a brand, took his logo of him jumping through the air, and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar industry that you can go into a remote village in Africa. You can go somewhere in the middle of China. You can go into Brazil. You go wherever, and you show the logo, and everybody knows who he was. When we talk about that, there won't be ever another Michael Jordan. There might be somebody on the court that can rival him, but what he did and what he became with that logo and that brand, it's something that we're never going to see again.
Totally agree. And let's talk about NFL. Tom Brady. He left Patriots. What do you think about that? It was due, right? It was due. But
it was.
Shouldn't the guy retire? He's done for, no?
No, he's not. He's got plenty of game left. I think he's got
think?
plenty of game, and Tampa Bay's got two of the best wide receivers in football, and now Gronkowski joined them in Tampa Bay. I'm surprised because the Brady-Belichick Patriots relationship, the 20 years of brilliance, the 9 Super Bowls in 20 years. Like, I'm a Bears fan. I started watching football in 1983, 1984, and they went to a Super Bowl and they won in 85. And I'm like, awesome. They won. They're going to be doing this every couple of years, you know? And then you see it. That it doesn't happen every couple of years. It's hard to repeat in the National Football League. There's no other sport that is more difficult to repeat in the NFL, the way the salary structure is. And for those who don't know, if you finish in the first place of your division, you have a more difficult schedule than the team that finished 4th place in your division. You play more first-place teams, whereas the 4th place teams, they play off against each other. So what they did, we're never, ever going to see that again. We're never going to see 9 Super Bowl trips in a 20-year period. We're never going to see 6 championships. It simply won't happen. Guys won't stick around that long. That was a very special 1-2 punch, and I'm surprised that it ended that way. I just thought that there was still more game left in Tom Brady. But for Tom Brady, I think it was a business decision. I think scoring points is going to come a lot easier to him in Tampa Bay than it will in the Patriots. The Patriots right now, because of years and years of just getting players that were, a little older, but, serving a purpose and sacrificing youth, I think it caught up to them, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I think it was from a business decision, just taking away the names and the logos and all that. If you're a quarterback, you much rather be in Tampa Bay than in New England.
Interesting. What sport don't you like, man? You like everything, huh?
I don't dislike anything, and I always say that because I hate when people tell me I hate rugby. I'm like, what do you hate rugby? I don't watch rugby. I don't watch 5 minutes of rugby a year unless Canada's men or women's squad is playing in the Olympics. So I don't like rugby, but I say that I appreciate all sports, and I watch a lot of sports. Yes, I'm a junkie. There's golf, tennis. I'm all in.
Golf on TV, you watch?
Golf, believe it or not. There is no
on TV. It's the boringest thing.
No, there is no greater sport made for television than golf.
For television?
Nothing.
Okay, maybe I have to try it. I don't know.
Well, listen, there's something happening every 15 seconds. Let's go to Tiger on 18 with a putt. Let's go to Phil's. Then within seconds, you're at Phil's drive on 16. Then Rory's chip on 15. Every 15, 20 seconds, something fresh is happening during a golf broadcast. Whereas hockey, it's face-off, commercial, you name it, football between plays. Whereas golf, it's just tat. I love watching golf on television. It's the one sport that television has really made it even more pleasurable to watch. Like basketball, to me, the cameras are better, angles are better, but it's no different than when I was watching Magic in the 80s. It hasn't changed that much from my couch here in St. Dorothy, But maybe fighting. I'll watch GSP. And when there's a major boxing event, I'll make my way out somewhere to watch it. But I'm not a big fan of the combat sports.
No problem. Let me see here. There's a couple of questions. Malik Shahid, he said, good point. Probably, I think, about Jordan. Nat Carly, MJ, my team crush, the best. There was one guy here. Simon Tsalikis, all-time great off the record guest. I knew you when you were a young punk. This is Chiapet 31.
Yes, you did. that is an accurate assessment. Yeah.
Costa, his question is, what's the best sport to have in the background while napping?
Probably golf.
Golf.
Yeah. Listen, golf is a chill environment. Like when I go watch golf on a Sunday, I'll usually take in a little bit during Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Major events, I'll sit down and watch a little bit more. But Sunday at the Masters or at the Open, yes, it's a beautiful thing to have on in the background because there's no yelling, there's no fist bumps. Well, at least there shouldn't be. But unless there's a Canadian, edging themselves to a championship. But as much as I love golf, it is an absolute wonderful sport to have in the background if you're trying to nap.
And it's good for social distancing.
I said it, and it wasn't popular.
Right?
Listen, I go to the IGA, man. I'm a lot closer to people there than I am if I were to play on a golf course. And there's a lot of things they could do for golf. Look, a lot of it is you say it, you might get attacked, you might even get crucified for it. But the lineup at the IGA in St. Dorothy or the Canadian Tire where I went yesterday to get some stuff, there's a lot more people there and a lot of people closer to me there is on a golf course. On a golf course, if you're playing with 4 people and you're respectful about being 6 feet from each other, you don't have to get 6 feet from each other. People were talking about taking the flag out. You don't have to take the flag out. You don't have to do anything. You could just take your pull card and walk. I think it's one. Look, again, I want everybody to be safe. I don't gain in having a golf course open or a driving range. I don't own either of those two entities. But if you're going to start opening up stuff, a golf, absolutely. Get people out there walking, keeping their distance, pumping a little bit of money into the economy, and maybe even driving ranges for that matter. I think you got to hold off on maybe gyms and workout centers and stuff like that. Yes, you do.
You play golf?
I do. I used to play a lot more before I had kids.
Perfect. So when it opens, we'll reach out. We go play.
Absolutely.
We'll have a nice stogie together.
I like being out there. Like it's the one thing I like, just being out on a golf course. Listen, man, I spend most of my day in traffic. I spend most of my day commuting on Waze to find out how we can beat traffic by 6 or 7 minutes. So when you're out on a golf course, it's to me, it's a very pleasurable experience.
There you go. So Big Daddy, why is there more positive tests on enhanced supplements on baseball versus NFL? I would have thought football more because of the size, strength, and speed the guys have.
Yeah, my very generic answer is how aggressively are they testing in football, and how aggressively are they testing in baseball? I'm sure there's an issue in both sports privately that they won't discuss, but baseball got busted. Baseball got, Mark McGuire and Barry Bonds,
yes,
and Sammy Sosa,
that's right.
and Jason Giambi, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. NFL's never been busted. One dude gets busted for steroids, he gets suspended, and off we go. But we've never had Tom Brady in the headlines for testing positive, or Aaron Rodgers, or any one of the big time players.
But do you think they take? We don't know.
We don't know. Look, you look at some guys and they're ridiculously freakish. NFL says they have a great testing, but how much are they testing? I don't know. I'm not privy to that information.
A little envelope here and there,
I don't know about the envelope. I just think that probably what they're taking is not what, some of my friends were taking in the gyms in 1988 because, they were buying it out of a back of somebody's trunk, This is a $1 billion industry that probably God knows what you can do to mask it. But I think just NBA's put it at the forefront. Look, they sat down in front of a congressional hearing. They went to the highest courts in the United States. So they took their beating. Their greatest player ever, the best baseball player I've ever seen in my life, is Barry Bonds. He's not in the Hall of Fame, and he was never even convicted of taking one positive test. It's just that the evidence is overwhelming. So every year when we talk about Hall of Fame and are we going to let in Manny Ramirez, are going to let in Alex Rodriguez, we're going to let in Barry Bonds, all guys that have been associated with steroids. So every year that they come out with the voting, baseball's sitting there with that black mark, whereas the NFL doesn't have that hanging over their head. They have their other issues with the concussions and stuff like that. But with baseball, they took a hard line when it came to the steroids.
Beautiful. One more sports question, and then we're going to flip it to real estate. Coach Christos, how about watching tennis on TV?
Tennis on TV is great. Tennis on TV, I think, is better than being live. Like I'll go out every couple of years, maybe almost every year, to our boy Tsitsipas for sure. I go down to Jerry Park and take in some of the tennis. But the tennis at home is great, man. The camera angles, you're right down at the court. You can hear everything pretty much. You can see everything. That's what's special about tennis too, right? You can see the serve and the guy positioning or the girl positioning themselves for a return. I enjoy watching tennis on television.
Very nice. One more sports one, actually, and then we'll take from there. Costa, does COVID-19 affect the timeline of the Expos return? Were they supposed to come back?
Unless they were supposed to come back in October, no, I don't think that. I think we're still years away from the Expos. I don't know how far away.
It was all rumors, probably, huh?
Well, rumors from good sources. I've been told that it's never been it's possible. It's never been more possible than it is right now. But how far away we are?
It would be good. Yeah, I think it would be good.
I think it would be good. Look, we're talking about a major city, and there should be just more than the Canadians. I know that the Impact and the Alouettes, and they do their part as well, but when I talk about the four big sports and NHL, NBA, baseball, and football, I think the city should be able to support. Great question going forward is, the basketball community in the city. Will they start making their push? Does the NBA want another team in Canada? I know that the NBA and the NFL would love to tap into Mexico and that monster city and that monster market. But, and I'd love to see baseball back. From the four major sports, it's probably my least favorite one. But I'd love to go to a ballpark. I thoroughly enjoyed going to a baseball game, even at the Big O. I enjoyed going to Cartier Metro Stop, getting off on VO, getting a dog, and watching a baseball game. It's something that I love to do, and I will do it if they come back. But there's a lot of obstacles there, especially the fact that there's no stadium. But with the NBA, there's one right on La Gauche Chair that can service an NBA team tomorrow. That's something to keep an eye on going forward. I think very quietly, the love affair with basketball in this province is growing every single year. It's growing. The numbers are there. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Cool. So let's talk about real estate. Talk to us about free coffee. What's up with that free coffee?
Not a lot being given out right now. It's hard to give out coffees from the luxury of your own home. Look, real estate is we're at a very interesting propositions going forward. Don't know how it's going to end up. I'm in an office. I have brokers that have been in my office that are in their mid-70s, and you can't even bounce them for any information. They've never been trying to rally a real estate market following a pandemic. I've gotten listings and I put them online, and they're quality homes, but obviously you're not getting the feedback or the response that if things were under more normal conditions. We'll see what happens.
Because it's uncertain times, right? So
uncertain times. And, I think that everybody's going to, look, two things. I think once we get the green light for life to go back to normal, even slightly, if you have a revenue property, there'll be a buyer for it. And I don't see people with revenue properties, unless they got themselves in a financial mess, are willing to liquidate them. And when it comes to your personal home, if you and your wife wanted to sell your house 2 months ago for $1 million, well, you're not going to take $900 for it now. You're not going to take a 10% haircut just for the sake of taking a 10% haircut, unless there's drastic measures because of that. So I think that there'll be a cool-off period. But this is not just a sales pitch or anything like that. I think the market, when things get back to normal, will pick up very quickly. For those who don't want to take a reduction on price, they just simply won't list their homes. I think there'll be less inventory, and then you dial into that. If there's less inventory, that may be able to drive your price up again. I think we'll smooth out here a little bit, but for anybody looking for an incredible reduction on home pricing or revenue properties, I don't think so. Maybe strip malls and stuff like that. There'll be businesses that may not be able to survive this, and there'll be some opportunities from that standpoint. But when it comes to just traditional homes and revenue properties, unfortunately, or fortunately for that matter, depending on, if you're the seller, I don't think there'll be people giving it away or incredible rebates.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know we have a couple of questions here regarding real estate. Here we go. Dimitri, he wrote this twice. People saying real estate will go down. What do you think?
Don't think so. I don't think so. I think it will have to play itself out. I think, look, I grew up in the Chamonix St. Dorothy area. If you have the hood, if you have, let's just use the most traditional homes in these areas, your classic 3-bedroom bungalow or your classic split level. If you put it on the market today and you have a price that you'd be satisfied with, I think there'll be an incredible amount of interest immediately. The second we're allowed to start visiting and all these things, whether it be the week of May 4th, the week of May 11th, that you're going to sell. Higher end homes, there's a smaller pool of buyers for $1 million homes or $800,000 homes. There you might see a little bit of a pullback. There you might see a little bit of people being a little more hesitant, but not when it comes to good classic homes in classic areas like, whether it be, Ville Saint Laurent or Saint Leonard or any one of the burbs. I think if you have a good home and you price it properly, it'll move.
Got it. And I think that's pretty much it. What do you think about opening schools? Do you think that's a smart move? I think May 18 in Quebec, Montreal.
I think it's May 11th here in Laval. It's a decision.
But this is daycares and elementary, right?
Yeah, daycares and elementaries. Look,
you think it's too early?
I don't know. I'm gonna look. We still have another week to decide. We'll see what the numbers come out. I'm a believer of the science. I believe in listening to professionals, and I'll hear what they have to say. And if my wife and I think it's safe for our kids to go back, which I think it will be. My concern is about teachers and perhaps some of the older teachers. And look, at that point, they're gonna have to lean on their unions and figure out how to get it done. But there's no other scenario. If my wife gets called back into work and I have to go back into work, where do I leave my kids? And that's why probably they're not sending high school back, because the high school kids can stay home for several hours at a time. I have a friend who is him and his wife are in essential services. Their children have been going to essential service daycares for the last month. And I asked him about it, and he's like, "Yeah, there's no problem. Nobody's been sick. It's actually, interesting that at daycare they've spoke to them about being 4 feet apart. They've spoken to them about washing their hands more often. Look, if you're not comfortable, and I know that this, was a hot topic of discussion yesterday, but the premier gave you an option. You don't have to send your kids back, and if you don't want to send your kids back, don't. And I'm not going to frown upon anybody not sending their kids back. And nor should anybody frown upon anybody who has to send their kids back.
Exactly.
My wife and I are paid to be adults, and we're paid in this home to make those decisions. And we'll make those decisions when the time is necessary. But, we've had a light discussion yesterday, and I do believe we'll be sending our kids back on May 11th.
Bravo. Is real estate in Brossard being overhyped because of the REM
No,
training?
It isn't. I think that's anybody, anywhere on that line, is going to benefit from that. It's simple. If it's a 30-minute commute downtown and you can turn that 30-minute commute into a 20-minute commute, there's an incredible amount of value there. If you're coming in on the 20 in the West Island or the 40, and if you can have people and for, there's a trickle effect there as well, right? If you live, and let's just pick anywhere, Dollar, and you can get on the REM, and somebody can get downtown from a 40-minute commute to a 25-minute commute, and that means the family can go from 2 cars to 1 car because the REM is so efficient for them. I think there's an incredible amount of value. Look, the REM is just the modern, the Jetsons. Yeah, exactly. But, 20 years ago, I'm sure real estate brokers were telling their clients, hey, there's a bus stop that takes you to a metro, and then the metro takes you downtown, and like, wow, that's incredible, a bus stop. 2 minutes from my house. The REM is just the modern version of that. So I think there's an incredible amount of value to get people in and off the island quickly and safely.
Beautiful. Now, regarding sports, in your opinion, going back to sports, because Nick just brought up a good question, how are things going to change? So he wrote here, do you think people will go back to going to stadiums to watch sports, example, Bell Center, or are those days over? Or it's a pause right now? It's a pause.
A definite pause, and even when we get the green light, I think some people will be will not run back. Look, it's layer 2, right? And I say this in the nicest way. If your team is really, really good and your team has LeBron James playing for it, there's a better chance that you'll go watch your team play than if your team is garbage at hockey, basketball, or football. So there's 2 elements there, but I think I'm just guessing. I'm speculating. It'll be in front of no fans, and then maybe at some point they start letting in 50% of the fans. But it'd probably be a year or 2 before things are back to 21,000 packed.
A year or 2.
Well, the thing is with this city, though, this city's messed up. The Canadians start next season, and let's say they start in October or November, the 2020-2021 season, and this team is playoff bound in April and May of 2021. There's 21,000 hardcore Habs fans that will not care. They'll go in gas mask suits. They'll fill that place up.
Of course.
Yeah.
Look, but even when the weather is going to open up now, you're going to see people, the social distance, it's not going to happen.
You're hoping, look, I got a nice little neighborhood here. I actually do make everybody frappes. So whenever you want to come, you let me know. Look, man, all of us are pretty much the same age. We all have the same interests. Our kids are going to pretty much the same level of schooling. We get together almost every day. Just keep your distance. Like, I stand on my driveway. He stands on his driveway. The other guy comes halfway across the street. The weather's going to get better, but it just doesn't mean we should get dumber. Just try to respect as much as you can. That's it. It's not that hard.
Totally.
It really isn't that hard.
I agree. Costa, have you ever leveraged your sports connections for your real estate career? Sold any mansions for any Habs players?
How do I answer that without getting in trouble?
Yes, but no.
Yes. I've been part of a transaction with a member of the Canadiens who I'm quite certain was a co-listing. He had no idea who I was. Probably was not a listener of TSN 690, and for certain did not follow me on Twitter. I've had a couple of players put offers on properties that were mine, a couple of Alouettes players. But a lot of the, like, let's use the biggest team in town. The Canadiens have their brokers. I've tried, I'll say it honestly, I've tried to tap into that, but it would be a weird dynamic. Like, pick a player, any player. I don't know. Pick Carey Price. He lives in a beautiful house in the
Condiac.
In that area. Like, I'm not certain if you wants me to sell his house and then tune into the post game show and I'm ripping him a new one because he let in 2 lazy goals. That's an interesting dynamic that I'd have to explain the next day. So yeah,
hilarious.
But if any of the Habs are watching and they'd love for their homes to, I'd be more than happy. And
you're gonna offer them what?
Free coffee.
There you go.
More than that. We start at free coffee. We work our way up from free coffee. That's it. It's the first date is free coffee. Yeah.
There you go. Let's talk about radio. For anybody watching this video and this conversation right now, because this will be on YouTube, okay? Mm-hmm. That wants to get involved in radio, what advice can you give them?
If you want to get invited, sports radio, I would say, or let's stick at the sports radio. That's what I do.
Yeah,
or talk
sure.
radio. I don't know how the boys or the girls at Virgin what they do to get on
there you go.
The air. Couple of things. I think you have to be ready to be mobile. And I think the calling might come from a radio station in Cornwall, in Kitchener, in Bentonville, Arkansas. So you got to be ready to leave mama and baba and do it yourself. If you're on the English side of the equation, you live in a province where 80% of the radio stations are in French. So it's a tough thing to crack.
Work on your French.
These are 2 things you have to work on. You have to work on your French, and you have to be able to work in the French sector if you want to stay local. And the other thing you have to do that I don't do very well, and I think you have write every day. Write a paragraph, write 2 paragraphs, write a blog, and let your mom read it. It doesn't matter. Get it out there on social media. Write about the Habs, write about the Patriots, write about sporting issues. Write. If you can write and you can put together any type of writing skills, thoughts, whatever, it'll open doors for you. Whether it be just something that you might think is a small blog that becomes into a great blog. Like some of my favorite, bloggers are out there with 1 and 2 million followers. So work on the French skills, work on the writing skills, but be prepared to be mobile. Be prepared that the call is going to come in from some, look, man, I've told many people in the industry that are not tied down to the city. I'm tied down to the city. My profession is here. My wife's profession is here. We have family here. For me to pick up to move to make an extra buck and disrupt all that, I don't think it's worth it. If ESPN is listening and they want to attach a high 6-figure salary to that, I'm all ears.
Let's talk.
Yeah. But look, there's a team open. Here's a perfect example. There's a hockey team going in Seattle, right? If you
that's for sure, or rumor?
Guaranteed 100% signed, sealed, and delivered. One of the owners is a local guy. Mitch Garber is one of the local owners on the team. If you want to work in sports and you're in this city and you're on the French side or the English side, why haven't you applied for the Seattle job? They're going to need somebody for their pregame show. They're going to need somebody for their postgame show. They're going to need somebody at ground level. They're going to need somebody following the team on a daily basis. They're going to need somebody covering that team at practices the way the Canadians get covered by 20, 30 members of the media on a daily basis. Same thing we saw explode in Vegas. If you live in this city and you have that background, I guarantee you, if you send your CV, whatever, you email that organization and they see you're coming from this city and with your hockey background, they're not going to hit the delete button. They might not hire you, but you're going to get a look. And that's the perfect example. Seattle, NHL team. Where are they going to get their writers? Where are they going to get their bloggers? Where are they going to get their hockey minds? They're going to tap into hockey markets, and this one being at the top of the list. Or it should be at the top of the list.
Perfect. So thank you for your time, man. Stay safe. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Be safe. Let me know if you want to
go play golf one day.
You can even have a stop by. I'll get you the frappe, and I can on my hockey stick, and I can hand it to you, and off you go.
Will do. I'll keep that in mind. That's for sure.
That's it.
So if somebody wants to follow you on social media, how can they follow you?
At Simon TSN 690. And
that's Instagram, Facebook.
That's Twitter, and the Facebook is at Simon Tsalikis RLP. The RLP stands for Royal LePage.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So follow Simon, ladies and gentlemen, and follow the Nick and Jimmy Show. Thank you, Simon.
Have a good one.
Have a good day, man.
Take care.
Take care, man.